Broadcasting live from the Hilltop Nissan Studios. Hilltop Nissan, Route 10 East Hanover, and hilltopnissan.com. This is Classic Oldies WMTR.
The following program was paid for by federal national funding. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the staff, management, and advertisers of WMTR. It is always advisable to consult a professional before making a major life or financial decision. Welcome to WMTR's Sound Advice. It's 65th hour, Mondays from 7:30 till 8:30, right here on WMTR. And here's your host, Theodore Tracey.
You are listening to the 65th hour, Mondays with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. Welcome to my live show every Monday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., right here on WMTR 1250 a.m. Good evening to everyone. I am so excited to share with you this critical and valuable information about the next stage of your vibrant years and how we together can maximize them by you having the right information and knowledge to make the most enlightened and educated decision concerning the next journey in your life. My friends listening here tonight, my name is Theodore Tracey. I am Senior Vice President and Managing Partner of Federal National Funding. I have been in the financial industry for over 20 years. I have extensive experience in helping families deal with the financial burdens when one enters a nursing home or assisted living facility. I am also well-versed in Medicare options turning 65, veteran benefits entitlements, Medicaid long-term care, property and casualty insurance, life insurance, real estate finance, and business loans. The lines are open this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please call in with your questions. We welcome your call in. The number to reach us is 973-267-9687. You can also email your questions at info@federalnationalfunding.com. My friends, I would now really like to dig into our topic for this evening, and that is final stage planning. But first, I'd like to introduce my producer, Miss Dianne Wesley. Dianne, how are you doing this evening?
I am beyond fantabulous. And boy, that word is spreading like wildfire. Friends say, I can't get that word out of my head. And then they start smiling. And I said, just what we want you all to do. So everybody listening tonight, say that word, say it loud, and I'm telling you, it will make you feel fantabulous. Now, we know that the subject matter tonight is very delicate. And Theo, we were talking about just even my own situation with my mom, that we need to let these people know what people do behind the scenes when your loved one is finally at the end. And if they are in the hospital or if they are in a assisted living facility or in a nursing home, please have somebody sit in their home, their assisted living facility, or their nursing home. They were thieves in the night, and they just put everything out the window. She was on the first floor. We love you. We want to protect you. These are the kind of things you need to know. Don't assume that just because she's in a facility, people are watching over things. They're not. And sometimes it happens in-house as well. So, with that said, Theo, I know we have a lot of great things to discuss tonight.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, oftentimes I know in the past couple of shows that we had, I have often spoken about that the majority of people nowadays are primarily focused on retirement planning, trying to accumulate a substantial nest egg for their retirement. That is one of the number one focuses with everyone. But seldom, people actually take it a step further and plan for what I've spoken about in terms of long-term care services. I'd just like to touch on that first before we get into the topic for this evening, final stage planning. Often in my experience, when everyone is primarily focused on retirement planning, college education for their children. No one is really looking into the situation when one has a need for long-term care services. For instance, when someone has a stroke, when someone has a heart attack, when someone slips and falls and breaks their hip. No one really prepares for this, and children don't speak to their parents in regards to this, and very seldom planning is done. And the fact of the matter is, these costs are very, very excessive. A nursing home, $12,000 a month, $10,000 a month, very substantial. So the fact of the matter, we're all living longer. Okay, it's projected by the year 2030 for us to have 70 million seniors over the age of 65. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. We're living longer, which is very positive. We're eating healthy and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is, statistics have shown that 75% of that number I just shared with you will require some type of long-term care assistance.
That's huge, because I think a lot of people truly don't understand how important that is before it's too late. Am I right?
Too late. They actually wait until they're in crisis mode, until one falls down or one has a stroke, and then we're shuffling, and then we're having to, and then our options are very limited. So I often say to people, in addition, in the same initiative that we take in terms of planning for retirement, we need to take it a step further and plan for these long-term care expenses as well as final stage planning. Because people, as I said, people just don't want to. I mean, I guess a psychological effect. It's natural. People don't really want to go to that pain or that uncomfortable feeling and have to deal with having a loved one pass, or the fact that thinking that, we're all healthy, that we'll be 100%, we'll never be in a nursing home, or we'll never, see ourselves in an assisted living facility. But, the statistics have shown that we will require that type of care at some point in our lives, and it will be very costly. So if we have having 5 years in a nursing home facility at $10,000, $12,000 a month, you're looking at $120,000. And what that can do to a retirement account could be devastating.
Well, that could wipe it out.
Could wipe it out, exactly. So I try to stress the importance of planning for when one is in need of that type of assistance. And then also, too, what I find in my experience, that people are not really, they fail to plan for the final stages of their life. Okay? Not only are you doing an injustice to yourself, but you are doing an injustice to your family, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, God forbid if something does happen, it's costly, okay? And then when your family member is in that grieving mode, you're not thinking correctly. You're not really you're being forced to make certain financial decisions in that grieving mode. And so you're really looking at it not just for yourself, but you're looking at the family, because sometimes we have to set aside and take the time to think about how we felt when we lost a loved one, and the pain that we felt, and the fact that we have to endure this type of pain while we're making financial decisions. So it's kind of difficult. And in my experience, people don't really respond very well with that, and it's natural. I mean, if you lose a loved one, you're not thinking correctly. You're not in your right mind. You're having to deal with funeral arrangements. You're having to deal with the cost of the funeral, which is very expensive. So we need to really take the initiative and try to make it easier on our loved ones. And the way we would accomplish that is actually being proactive in our situation and planning for our final stages, planning for things in terms of, God forbid, if something happens to them, we pass on. And some people look at it as a celebration of one's life when someone passes. But we have to take the consideration in terms of planning for this expensive cost.
And do you think, because of the mindset that they're in, that a lot of times a lot of the things are missed?
Absolutely. I mean, you're not in your right mind. You're not focused. You're in grieving. I've dealt with clients that have gone through this. Myself, family members.
I have too.
They're not in the right mind. They do not want to really deal with the details. So that's where the planning comes. And as I said to ladies and gentlemen, it's not about, yes, it is about you, but also we have to start thinking about our loved ones and how they would feel and how they're going to react and things of the nature. So taking the weight off your family members by doing the appropriate planning. And tonight we are going to discuss final stage planning and the various types of insurances, because that's a major component that is to be utilized in final stage planning. And I would like to start off by going over the 5 steps for final stage planning. Number 1, we need to plan for incapacity. Once again, I spoke about the long-term care. We need to plan if we hypothetically fall down, we slip and fall, hurt our hip, where we're forced to be confined to the home, or we're no longer able to handle our activities of daily living, certain things such as dressing, bathing, toileting, incontinence. If we're having difficulties with that, in my experience, we're not even looking that far enough to really plan. But as I said before, it comes down to dollars, not also in terms of your care. But the fact is, as I said, an assisted living facility, that's $3,900 a month. Nursing home, you're talking roughly $10,000 a month. It's very, very costly. So that is the number 1 step in terms of planning for our final stage, is looking into the terms if we need that long-term care service.
Now, if they come in to see you in person, these are the kind of questions they can get answered, and you have answers for them, yes?
Absolutely, without question. We specialize in elder care advisory. We go over it in depth in terms of the choices to be made, in terms of planning for the final stages of one's life and making the appropriate decisions.
Okay.
And it's super, super important. People take it as lightly, but it's super, super important.
Well, we are listening to Theodore Tracey, the voice for Senior Solutions. And if you want to reach him, please call his office, 201-342-3300. That's 201-342-3300. Or information, you want to get him through email, info@federalnationalfunding.com. You are listening to WMTR 1250 AM, 973-267-9687. And we had an interesting question through an email, actually. Who would be the ideal person to be the executor of the estate? And can there be more than one?
Yes, well, the executor is someone that handles the responsibility of making sure that one's wishes are taken care of in regards to their, final wishes in terms of handling their estate, making sure the appropriate distributions are made. So in that sense, you'd really want to have a family member, your children, someone that you feel very trustworthy, that you feel confident that will actually, go through with your wishes. So it's really, and in terms of your question, in terms of having more than one, yes, you can. You can have a co-executor, things of that nature. But the most important thing is to have someone that you trust, that you feel confident that, God forbid, if something does happen to you, that they will make sure that your wishes are taken care of. So that is the answer to that question. I'd like to also get back to the 5 steps of financial stage planning. Number 2 is provide detailed instructions for guardianship of minor children. So if one has children and they're below 18, you want to make sure the appropriate papers are in place, that if, God forbid, something happens to you, they are being taken care of. That is very, very important for people that have young children. So, some people don't look at that part, but that's something that really needs to be taken in consideration. That's number 2. Number 3 is to distribute your property to your specified beneficiaries, whether it be your 401k plan, your primary residence, your IRA, anything of that nature. You want to make sure you have the appropriate beneficiary attached to that account. So in order that you actually handle probate correctly. So in order that the property or the account transfers to your designated beneficiaries without any change. Maybe that person, they have gone astray, and you've lost that confidence in them. So sometimes you may want to review your paperwork and see if that person is still an ideal person to have as your beneficiary or handle your estate. So that is number 3. Number 4 is choose your trustees or your executors. We just, that email question, choosing the appropriate person to handle your estate, making sure if you do have a trust and that you choose the appropriate trustee, and that's the one that is actually responsible for making sure that the property and the trust is handled correctly, and the executor, things of that nature. So you want to make sure you feel confident about your decision in choosing the appropriate executor. I think we have a caller on the line right now. Excuse me. Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Thank you very much for this show, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, I heard that I could cash in my term policy. Is that true?
Okay, yes. Well, with term policy, it does not have a cash value, okay? But what it is, and that is more so for a specified period of term, but it doesn't have a cash value, but they do have a vehicle, what they call life settlements. And life settlements is where you can actually sell your term insurance policy to a company, to an investment company, and they will give you, although the term policy does not have cash value, the investment company will give you money. Say, for instance, hypothetically, you have a term policy at $100,000, and this is more so if you're not in good health. Say, for instance, hypothetically, you have a disease or things of that nature. You don't have very long to live, and you say that, listen, while I'm living, let me see if I can get some money for this term policy and enjoy the rest of my life. So if you have a $100,000 term policy, the investment company will offer you maybe $50,000 for your pocket, and then when something happens to you, that's how the investment company recoups their money. They get the $100,000, the face value. But to answer your question, your term policy does not have cash value, but in the same token, you can utilize what they call life settlements. And I want to thank you for your call this evening.
Thank you, Cassandra.
All right, thank you for the answer. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Yes, you are definitely listening to Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. Please give us a call. The lines are open. You can reach us at 973-267-9687. Once again, that number, 973-267-9687. And I'd like to get into the final step for final stage planning. And that is making funeral arrangements to ease the pressure on your family. And I find this to be super important because, as we said, people really fail to really plan. And then, when something happens and one dies, it's very difficult for that person or that loved one, that their children or that loved one, to really handle their affairs because you're grieving.
Right.
So you really, I think it's very important. This is a very important step of final stage plan because you're taking the initiative that if something happens, my children, of course, or whatever, my loved ones are going to be grieving. And let me see what I can do to ease their pain. Think about it now. Let's see what we can do to ease their pain. How are we going to do that? Maybe taking advantage of a prepaid funeral. So they're not in the right mind. So in terms of planning for a funeral, I think it's a lot on that particular person. You want to give that person, your loved one that has passed, respect. And you're celebrating their life. You want to give them respect by giving them a very nice funeral. But, as I said before, when they pass, you're grieving. You're not in your right mind. It's very hard to make certain financial decisions and things like that. So by you taking a little bit of time and sitting down with a professional, and whether it be in terms of establishing your will or establishing your life insurance policy, which we will get into, I'll definitely discuss the different types of life insurance policy. But sit back and take the time and sit down with that professional, whether it be your insurance agent, your attorney, and make sure you have the appropriate documents. Some of the appropriate documents that I would definitely recommend that one look into is having the appropriate power of attorneys in place. And you need 2 types of power of attorneys. You need one for healthcare and one for financial affairs. So if God forbid something happens and you're not in your right mind, you're appointing an agent to handle and make decisions and be your voice per se, in terms of moving on your behalf, in terms of handling your financial affairs or handling your healthcare decisions.
So you're saying for the two different types of power of attorney, one for the financial and the other for health, so you'd have your power of attorney and then you'd have the power of your living will, correct?
Yes. The power of the living will is when you are actually designating your requests in terms of your health decisions. So it's one and the same. But it's very important to have that without question. A living will, in other words, your healthcare proxy, things of that nature, where you're actually specifying what your wishes is if you actually in a facility in the hospital or things of that nature and you're not able to speak on your behalf. Another important document, which is very important, is the will, is having a will. That is something that a lot of people, and you may find this hard to believe, but it's very common. A lot of people are dying without a will. And then you're making it very difficult for your loved ones to handle your affairs. And the question you have to ask yourself is, if something happens to me today, what is going to happen to my assets? How are my assets going to be distributed? Are we going to allow the state to dictate where your assets are going to be, how they're going to be distributed? I think that's not that common. I mean, you want to specify yourself how you want to, and by doing that, you want to have a will, because if you don't have a will, you're having what they call intestate. You're leaving it up to the state to actually, according to their state law, to distribute your assets. And then once you're getting caught up with all of that, in terms of dying with intestate, you're talking about tied up in probate. You're looking at anywhere from 6 months to a year in terms of a process as a result of not actually taking the time, sitting down with your attorney and planning and having an appropriate will in place.
Wait a minute. You're saying if you don't have a will, it's the state that determines how it's divided up?
That is correct. And then even if you take it a step further, say, for instance, the family members, they want to, of course, it's too late at this time, but now they want to take a proactive stance to move on their loved one's behalf. Now you have to go to the courts, and apply for administration rights and to handle your loved one's affairs. So, and that's also, I mean, it's not too time consuming for that, applying for that. It's like 2 weeks. But the fact is, having your affairs tied up in probate, you're talking anywhere from 6 months to a year, sometimes even longer. And on top of that, the costs. So it really it benefits one to really take the time to establish a will. It's very, very important. I think those are some important documents: a power of attorney for both health care as well as financial, a living will, your traditional will. Sometimes people want to utilize a trust, which we'll get into that. And then also having life insurance. That is something that is not common. People are often dying without life insurance. And, it's not uncommon. We hear about it all the time. So if one dies and they don't have a life insurance policy, how is your funeral costs going to be paid?
It can't be.
It can't be paid. And you're relying on your loved ones to come up with that type of money fast. In addition to the fact that they're grieving, now they have to take the responsibility of going into their bank account or touching base with their family members, pulling all these funds together to handle the funeral. And, so in addition to the grieving and the despair, you're having to shuffle and move aggressively to try to pull together those type of funds. I mean, right now, national average for for a funeral is roughly about $8,000.
$8,000?
$8,000. I mean, and in my experience, having spoken to many clients, it's above that, $13,000.
Yeah, I was thinking somewhere within that and up to about 15.
Absolutely.
So can they come to you and sit down, or are these the kind of things that you can do with them to set this up?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, then, ladies and gentlemen, you really need to set up an appointment with Theo in his office. His number, please call in, set up a time. This man is so knowledgeable, and that's why I'm with him. 201-342-3300. That's 201-342-3300. Or email him, info@federalnationalfunding.com. You are listening to WMTR 1250 AM, 973-267-9687. That's 973-267-9687. And We are open for you to call in, so please don't be shy. No question is off the table.
Don't be shy.
Yes.
Definitely don't be shy. All questions are welcomed. We definitely welcome all financial questions.
Yes.
In regards to our topic for this evening, final stage planning, I'd like now to really go over the different types of life insurance policies, because a lot of people are not familiar with the different types of life insurance policies. We had a caller inquire about the term insurance. That is term insurance is where you're actually protecting one's life only for a specified period of time. As I said before, term insurance does not have cash value. I often utilize term insurance for my clients when it comes to mortgage protection. When it deals in terms of the final stage planning, I really don't utilize that in terms of burial costs and things of that and medical expenses. I really utilize the term insurance for mortgage protection because the terms offered with the term insurance is 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And, your traditional mortgage is roughly about 30 years, or you have a 15-year mortgage. So if you have a couple, I utilize that if, God forbid, something happens to the husband, you want to have something like that in place to pick up the balance of the mortgage so you're not leaving your spouse on their own.
Oh, so you're saying you can use your term insurance if you need it in emergency situations?
Well, yeah, you definitely want to utilize the term insurance in case I utilize it for mortgage protection. Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to a break. We will be back shortly. You're listening to WMTR 1250 AM.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and just worry about the next phase of your life? Well, worry no more. At Federal National Funding, we are a group of top professional elder care advisors here to meet all of your financial and insurance needs, such as paying your bills, Medicare options turning 65, caretaking for seniors, little-known benefits for senior veterans, home, car, mortgage, and life insurance needs, Medicaid planning, final stage planning for you and your loved ones, and so much more. At FNF, we are not a government agency, but we do specialize in government programs. If you are interested to learn more about how we can help and educate you, please call now for your free face-to-face consultation at 201-342-3300. To tell your story, visit our online website at federalnationalfunding.com. At Federal National Funding, where your interest is our priority. That's 201-342-3300.
Don't miss Paul Anka, the Anka Sing Sinatra Tour at the Bergen Performing Arts Center on October 3rd. The show will honor a great artist who has influenced Paul Anka more than anyone else throughout his career, Frank Sinatra. It will also feature the hits that have spanned his career on his 60th anniversary year. It will be a night filled with his songs, my way. Get your tickets now for Paul Anka at bergenpack.org. That's bergenpack.org.
Mom was having trouble with the stairs. She couldn't even get upstairs to use her sewing machine. It was taking away the things in life that she loved. I was worried that we'd have to move her out of her home. Then I called Williams Lift Company. Williams Lift Company came right over the next day and explained it all to us right there. And we had a stair lift installed the very next day. It was so simple for Mom to lead a free and independent life in her own home.
Stair lifts are the easiest and most affordable way to go up and down stairs when they've become an obstacle in your home. Williams Lifts is a family-owned company in business since 1947. They're the experts in restoring freedom and mobility to homes across North Jersey without the expense, cost, and hassle of remodeling or moving. Stair lifts from Williams Lifts are a lot more affordable than you think. Visit WilliamsLifts.com or call 908-293-7747, 908-293-7747. A lift from Williams Lifts is the most economical way to stay in your home and keep your independence. Visit WilliamsLifts.com today and see how affordable a stair lift is.
Do you like winning prizes?
Who doesn't?
Well, we made it real easy for you.
Tell me more.
It's the WMTR Cool Club's Look for Your Name contest. Hit WMTRAM.com, click on the Cool Club section, and sign up right now.
Then what?
Check the Look for Your Name section of our website every week. If your name is there, you want a prize.
Gee, that couldn't be easier.
You're right. It's the easiest contest we could think of. Sign up now at WMTRAM.com. Broadcasting live from the Hilltop Nissan Studios. Classic Oldies, WMTR Morristown, a Beasley Media Group station.
For those of you who are just tuned in, you are listening to the 65th Hour with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the lines are open. We are now back. You can reach us at 973-267-9687. The topic for this evening, final stage planning. And one, in my experience, people fail to do that, both with final stage planning as well as long-term care planning. And before our break, we were discussing the various types of life insurance policies. We had spoken about the term insurance. The next type of policy is called whole life. And that's exactly what it is. It's for your entire life. It's a policy that does build cash value tax-free. Although the cash value is your money, it is not easily accessible like that. You can't just draw the money like that. You actually have to take the money through what they call policy loans. And then the policy loans are tax-free loans, but it's not something where you can just automatically pull the policy for yourself. I often utilize, depending on the client and the resources, I definitely propose this because in addition, you never know how life moves. You may have a situation where it is an emergent situation, whereas you may need some cash. And then sometimes it could be life-changing in terms of being able to access that particular cash value and taking a policy loan. So I often utilize this in terms of final stage planning. And then also, even sometimes it could be advantageous for people that have parents that have children. Sometimes they may utilize that cash value to assist with the college education for their children. So that's another very nice benefit with whole life insurance.
So I think that's a big point for everyone listening, whether it's the children of the parents right now or the parents. I think that's a huge plus that I don't think most people know about that, Theo. And can they reach you?
Absolutely. We assist with this. We do assist with this. We definitely look at their circumstances, resources, and really try to encompass everything because, in terms of a final stage, we're not just doing it in terms of final stage planning. We're really trying to assess everything. Because that's where I come into play, because people fail to do these things. People fail to plan for these type of occurrences. And then when you fail to plan, you find yourself in crisis mode. When you're in crisis mode, your options are very limited. So as a result of that, because you're forced to maneuver, and you're not as far as your choices and options in terms of making a prudent decision is not there. We do have another caller on the line. Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing this evening? You have a question for us this evening.
Yes, I do. What is the difference between a medical POA and healthcare proxy?
Okay, yes, you've probably seen that from a forum. Okay, yes, in answer to your question, ma'am, the medical POA and the healthcare proxy are one and the same. It just really allows you, the purpose of that document is to allow you to make decisions for your loved one, God forbid if they become incapacitated and not able to really speak for themselves. But to answer your question, those particular two documents, number one, thank you for your question, very, very important to have those documents in place. If someone does happen to one's loved one, to have someone to actually be their voice, but they are actually one and the same. And I thank you for your call.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your answer.
Okay, my pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. Have a good evening.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting because, again, when people come in to sit down with you, no matter what question they have, I know you're very open to have them, like, the best thing to do is have everything written out so, they feel comfortable and they don't feel like they're missing something from that. So, all right, if you want to hear more from Theo, please go into his office, sit down with him. He has a wealth of knowledge. He believes in all of this that you are listening to, 201-342-3300 or info@federalnationalfunding.com. You are listening to WMTR 1250 AM, 973-267-9687. Once again, please feel free. Don't be shy. Any question you might have for Theodore, 973-267-9687.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we were just discussing the various types of insurance policies. We also going over the third type of policy, which is the universal life. This type of policy is more flexible as to it allows the owner, the policy owner, to really determine and vary the frequency and the amount of their premium. So if one has a little bit more resources, they could be a little bit more aggressive and put some more money into that universal policy. And of course, that does build up cash value. And in other words, you can actually be so proactive to put away a certain amount of dollars to increase the cash value to enough so it actually covers the cost of your premiums. So that is the benefit of the universal life. It still moves along the same lines as whole life, but it allows you. It's definitely more inexpensive than whole life, because you'll find, and we'll run quotes for you if that's something that you have a concern with. But we will give you a quote. But the universal life is more inexpensive than the whole life, and I often utilize this for clients too. If you have limited resources or you're watching your budget, we look at those things. I mean, I sit down with you. We do what they call a confidential suitability questionnaire. Everything that I discuss with my clients or the people that I'm meeting with are strictly private and confidential under federal law. So definitely welcome you to do that. The other and final type of policy I'd like to discuss today is what they call final expense and burial coverage plan. These are often referred to as simplified issue whole life policies. There is no medical requirement, no medical exam. So what the insurance companies utilize, they utilize what they call a MIB. And that acronym stands for Medical Information Bureau. So they're not doing a medical exam on you, but they're actually looking at your records and seeing if you're suffering from any ailments, any problems with cholesterol, things of that nature. So it's a little faster. You can really get that issued really in one day. You do a simple telephone interview, and it's normally your range for those type of policies range from anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. But a lot of people like it because it's really primarily for burial coverage. People, handling that cost of the funeral. So a lot of people say, okay, you know what? I'm going to have a policy strictly for my funeral, and that's where we utilize the simplified issue whole life policy. And then sometimes we have what you call guaranteed issue. So even if you are suffering with certain ailments, there are certain programs or certain policies that one can utilize where you often guaranteed approval. So they're looking at to see if you have a smoking history, if you're a heavy smoker.
That's smart.
Things of that nature.
Very smart.
And it's more economical because it's more reasonable as opposed to the whole life policy, which is very, very expensive. But one other positive aspect with the final expense plans is it does have cash value as well. So taking it a step further, if one does come in term has an emergency, they can utilize those funds in emergency situation and borrow through policy loans.
So if they had all of these, they'd have many different options or opportunities to, if they needed in an emergency, to have some cash available.
Absolutely. As long as has the cash value is there, one can utilize it. And as I said before, it's not something where it's not a bank account where you can just pull the money out.
Right.
You actually have to go through policy loan. And then, but it is tax-free. So, that's another positive aspect. You're actually taking the policy loan tax-free. And so that's another weight that one doesn't have to deal with. But depending on your particular circumstance, these types of insurance policies we have just reviewed, each one has their purpose. And so it's not one size fits all. You really want to really sit down, determine what your particular situation is. Of course, most importantly, your budget. and things of the nature, and what your objective is. If it is just to handle the funeral costs, you may want to focus on the final expense plan. But say, for instance, you have estate planning issues, or you have some medical issues, or you want to have a substantial amount of funds available if you need medical expenses, if you leave medical expenses after you pass on, you may want to look at the whole life. So each one has their purpose, but it's something that you really need to sit down and not just say, okay, this is too much for me. There are professionals such as myself that you can sit down with and ask these questions. There is no excuse, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to help you. These are certain things that you want to put in place so you're not putting yourself at risk. You're not causing additional stress on your loved ones when you pass. It's already bad enough that you have passed on and things of that nature. We want to take the proactive stance and prudent judgment to do certain things and have the appropriate documents in place. And we do have a caller on the line. Excuse me. Yes, good evening.
Yes, hello.
Yes, good evening, sir. How are you doing this evening?
Okay.
All right. And you have a question this evening?
We have a circumstance of a family who just passed away, and I've been talking about powers of attorney. What's the difference between a durable power of attorney and a general power of attorney?
Okay. Yes. With the durable power of attorney, that is if you are becoming incapacitated and not able to make decisions on your behalf. So the durable power of attorney, when you appoint that particular agent can make decisions if you are not able to speak for yourself. But with the general power of attorney now, one becomes incapacitated and not able to speak for themselves, that general power of attorney actually ends. The general power of attorney ends in two instances. One, when you become incapacitated and not able to speak for yourself, or number two, death. So it's often advantageous to utilize the durable power of attorney because that would remain in existence if one, God forbid, is not able to speak for themselves. And I want to, yes. And I want to thank you for your call this evening, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you. That was very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
So things like this, they are delicate. And to have the beauty that when they sit down with you, so there is no more fear, and to know when it is the appropriate time, absolutely, to have either they are the ones that need to set it up or the loved ones come with you. So you don't mind if the loved ones come.
Absolutely not. I recommend that.
Okay.
It's very important to have your loved ones there if you're making certain decisions.
Yes.
Not so much. You need to inform your loved ones if they, so they need to know what your assets are.
Right.
As long as you feel comfortable with that person. And it's very important, and I welcome that because when you're dealing with final stage planning, it's not a light topic. It's not something that you're not going into a car dealership and, purchasing a car.
No,
you're not going to the department store and purchasing a jacket.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that really needs to sit down, take the time, make sure your decisions are prudent. If needs be, and get some input from your children or your loved ones. Sometimes it's very important, and I often recommend that if someone brings their loved ones in to see me, that's definitely, we welcome that.
That's phenomenal. Now, you are listening to Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. If you are interested in any of these topics that we've been speaking on week by week, please set up a time in the office. He will fill you in and really set you straight on all your options to cover everything from this point of your life on and when you really should be doing this. You can call him at 201-342-3300. That's 201-342-3300. Also, you may email him at info@federalnationalfunding.com. You are listening to WMTR 1250 AM every Monday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. right here, right every night, every Monday, 973-267-9687. And we had another email, just speaking of emails, I think this kind of goes along with everything we're talking about, but what is the benefit of the funeral trust?
Okay, yes, the benefit of the funeral trust, one thing, I utilize that in terms of Medicaid planning. In the state of New Jersey, you're allowed to utilize a funeral trust up to $15,000. And then actually the benefit is it actually removes from your estate. And then under Medicaid eligibility, it is not calculated negatively when applying for Medicaid. So the funeral trust, we utilize that to accommodate, burial, things of that nature, removing from your estate. And then also in terms of Medicaid planning. And when I speak about Medicaid planning, we're talking about what we planning for these long-term care expenses. So we often utilize Medicaid long-term care because there are two types of Medicaid. One, there are a lot of misconceptions with that. There is for those that are impoverished, and then you have the Medicaid long-term care that really helps with the 75% of all nursing costs in the United States of America is paid through the Medicaid long-term care program. So the funeral trust, we use that as a vehicle to implement some type of coverage and not be a detriment in terms of Medicaid planning.
And that's not taken away. Let's say they have to go into the nursing home or the assisted living. That's not taken away from them. In other words, that money is really set for that purpose.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We utilize that to remove it from the client's estate and help them, qualify for Medicaid. And remember the importance of establishing these type of funeral trusts or just life insurance on a whole, and just making sure that you have the appropriate documents in place, such as power of attorney, having your will, having the caller asked about the durable power of attorneys, having documents like this in place is super important because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to remember the family will be grieving, okay? So in that sense, when one passes, there's no time to really think. I mean, you don't want to be in terms of shuffling, trying to accumulate funds to pay for one's burial. You want to have this in place to take some of the weight off your loved ones. Oftentimes it's much easier if we take the initiative and establish some type of prepaid funeral. Because as I said before, in my experience, even with my own family, it makes sense to take it a step further and utilize a prepaid funeral because, you're not in your right mind. You don't want, you're grieving. You're already in pain. And now to make decisions in terms of flowers, in terms of how you want to do. And then also, too, it's really allowing one to give you the just respect and love in terms of honoring and celebrating your life. So that's another point that you really want to, take it a little step further and say, listen, it's about me, but it's about my children. It's about my family members. See if I can look a little further and see if I can, plan ahead and maybe take some of the weight off of them in their time of grieving. Even though we don't want to think about things, but that's the fact that we're all going to die at some point. So let's take the initiative and do the appropriate planning in terms of final stage planning and long-term care planning.
Theo, how soon, like you're saying, a timing of that, how soon before anything happens, an accident or an unexpected illness, what's an appropriate time? And I think this is the question a lot of people when they sit down and they talk to you, to make sure they understand, because nobody knows when they're supposed to do it, because you can't predict the future,
Well, absolutely. Well, the purpose of this, of us, speaking to the audience and educating our listeners, the show is the 65th hour. So that being said, we are dealing with issues when people become age 65 and older. Mm-hmm. So to answer the question, it would be at that point when you actually become eligible for Medicare. These are the times you really want to look at the various options. I mean, 65 is fairly young. I mean, we're living into our 90s and our hundreds and things of that nature. Yeah. So, in terms of if you find that you're dealing with a certain ailment or a certain condition, or you find that you are in a situation where you're having difficulties with your activities of daily living, and that being said, when I speak about activities of daily living, I'm talking about bathing, dressing, mobility issues.
Simple
things like that. It's at that particular time that you want to take those
appropriate steps.
Absolutely, without question. You don't want to wait until you actually really in dire need, and now you're coming out of pocket. Now because you've waited until the last hour, right?
Right.
Because you wait until the last hour. Now you're forcing to come out of pocket and be. Your options are so limited, and because you just didn't take a little time to do the appropriate planning, and certain things like that is important. I'd like to discuss very quickly. I'd like to discuss how one can control the distribution of their assets. That's something that is very, very important. And I'd like to go over 3 ways that one can control the distribution of their assets when they pass on. Number 1 is a will. And if everybody doesn't know, a will is a written set of instructions how you want your assets to be distributed according to your wishes, not to anyone else's.
Or the state.
Or the state. If you die without a will, is what you call intestate. And in these situations, you have the probate court ordering your assets to be distributed. Unfortunately, at this time, when probate gets involved, you don't have control anymore, because then they're distributing your assets based on state law. So that is the importance of a will. Okay, very super important. Number 2 is a trust. A lot of people are not familiar with a trust. They have certain different types of trust: a revocable living trust, an irrevocable living trust. But a trust is a legal arrangement under which one person, a trustee, manages the property given by the grantor for the benefit of the beneficiaries. Getting back to what we had said before, choosing an appropriate beneficiary, making sure that person is trustworthy, making sure they are prudent in their decision making. And most importantly, you have to trust that person. You have to trust them that they're going to handle your wishes according to your plan of action, and make sure everything's done appropriately according to your wishes. So, and a lot of people ask the question in regards to, the revocable living trust, the irrevocable living trust. The revocable living trust is often utilized as a means of, transferring assets to bypass probate. So that is often utilized for estate planning purposes. And of course, and that's exactly what is revocable, meaning you can change it. Meaning if you decide something that you don't like, you can change it. But whereas as far as an irrevocable trust, you can't make any changes. Once it's set in stone, unfortunately, that's what it is. It can't be changed. So a lot of people take that approach in terms of making sure someone can't come behind them and do some changes. But, it's at the point you want to speak to your attorney with that. Definitely want to speak to legal counsel with that. We have legal counsel on staff that I often consult with, but definitely it's something that you want to address legal counsel in terms of things of that nature, in terms of a trust.
And they can ask these questions or bring a set of questions in relation to this, so they can feel more secure or comfortable with who they choose and how they choose them, so that they don't have to be looking over their shoulder, because that can happen a lot with families, unfortunately.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you are listening to Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions. And what a show we are having tonight. It is absolutely outstanding. And if you have a pen and paper and you want to keep writing things down, and if you have that in front of you, I really hope you will call the office, 201-342-3300. That's 201-342-3300, or info@federalnationalfunding.com. You are listening to WMTR 1250 AM, right here every Monday, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. 973-267-9687. We welcome your calls. The lines are open. And once again, Theodore Tracey.
Yes, and I'm going to go into the final way one can distribute their assets, and it's in what they call joint ownership. That is a way to distribute assets that are jointly held property, specifically a joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. And basically what that is when you hold a property this particular way, it will pass to the surviving co-owner automatically when that person passes on. And because the title transfers automatically, there's no need for probate. So this is often another tool that can be utilized in terms of transferring one's assets. All of these have their place, ladies and gentlemen. And it is your duty to take the prudent measures to establish some type of final stage planning. In addition to that, looking at, God forbid, if something happens to me and I need some assistance with my activities of daily living, listen, we're all getting older. Yes, we're living longer, and which is a positive thing. But the fact of the matter is, if one does not take the appropriate measures and do the appropriate planning, if you're young enough, looking into the long-term care insurance, looking if you're past that age of long-term care insurance, sitting down with someone, your attorney or elder care advisor, or giving me a call, sitting down with me so we can do the appropriate planning and take the appropriate measures, God forbid, if you need this type of assistance. But listen, my friends, once again, it has been a great pleasure speaking with all of you this evening. And for those of you that have just tuned in here tonight, you are listening to the 65th Hour, Mondays with Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions, every Monday night right here on WMTR 1250 AM. Next week's topic, we will be discussing reverse mortgages, and we'll also be covering business loans for those of you that are business owners and that are in need of fast capital in terms of emergency situations. When it concerns your business, there are some particular programs that one might be able to utilize to access some quick funding when you really need it the most. We do believe in being well-informed, secure, and confident in your financial and health insurance decisions can help lead you to a stress and worry-free, happy life that you can enjoy every day with your loved ones. You have been listening to the voice of Theodore Tracey, the voice for senior solutions, where I will be speaking right here on WMTR 1250 AM. Every Monday night, live at 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Remember, my friends, if you're interested in to learn more about how we can help you and educate you on all of these issues, please call now for your face-to-face consultation. My number at the office, 201-342-3300. I welcome to sit down with each and every one of you at Federal National Funding, where your interest is our priority. Till next week, my friends, stay strong, healthy, happy, and well-informed.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and just worry about the next phase of your life? Well, worry no more. At Federal National Funding, we are a group of top professional elder care advisors here to meet all of your financial and insurance needs, such as paying your bills, Medicare options turning 65, caretaking for seniors, little-known benefits for senior veterans, home, car, mortgage, and life insurance needs, Medicaid planning, final stage planning for you and your loved ones, and so much more. At FNF, we are not a government agency, but we do specialize in government programs. If you are interested to learn more about how we can help and educate you, please call now for your free face-to-face consultation at 201-342-3300. To tell your story, visit our online website at federalnationalfunding.com. At Federal National Funding, where your interest is our priority. That's 201-342-3300.
We have an update on the Convent Service Center situation. We received this note from Convent Service Center this morning at our headquarters. It reads, "Wanted, your car, treat it right." As you know, Convent Service Center is inside the Luke Oil station on Madison Avenue in Morristown. They can handle all your automotive repairs and maintenance needs. Their technicians are professionals you can trust, and they'll give you an honest diagnosis before the work begins. Please be advised that they offer a complete safety inspection and oil change, including a check on your tire tread depth, cooling system, belts, fluid levels, and more.
Yeah, but are they certified?
Ma'am, I assure you that Convent Service Center is a certified New Jersey State Inspection Station and emission repair facility. Remember, Convent Service Center can perform any of your dealer-scheduled maintenance and carries all major tire brands.
Excuse me, sir.
I've just received word that Convent Service Center is looking for an experienced technician with strong communication skills, so stop by and ask for Mike. Convent Service Center, inside the Luke Oil Station, Madison Avenue in Morristown. Stop by now.
WMTR is New Jersey's traffic authority. We highlight the roads you use with frequent, less stressed traffic reports, weekday mornings and afternoons. Now you can also check for trouble spots anytime. Just head to our website, WMTRAM.com. Click on traffic, and you're on your way. Classic Oldies WMTR is your total source for the latest New Jersey traffic information whenever you need it. That's why WMTR is New Jersey's traffic authority.
The preceding program was paid for by federal national funding. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the staff, management, and advertisers of WMTR. It is always advisable to consult a professional before making a major life or financial decision.